6. Our women offer their entire lives to the service of Mother Earth. But when they themselves become mothers, what do they get? After having given birth to their children, they have to tie up their bellies and lie down helplessly. In those days, there would be no food in the house, not even the water left over from boiling rice, to satiate the fire of hunger raging inside the belly of the new mother. After the baby comes out into the world, a terrible void is left inside. The stomach needs soft and light food. But from where could Mahars get such food? With the hunger gnawing her insides, the poor woman would just tie up her stomach tightly and lie down on rags, her body a mass of aches and pain. Mahar women would go out begging in the neighborhood and try to collect at least a handful of grains. Some woman would procure from somewhere a little jowar, tie it carefully in her palav, and bring it to the house where the poor mother lay. She would give the jowar to the women in the house, who would crush the grains on the grinding stone and cook the coarse flour in water. The gruel would be poured onto a wooden plate and mixed with a little oil, if there was any. Otherwise the mother would eat it plain, to quench the raging hunger in her stomach. There is a saying that a black cow can survive even on thorns. Our women were like that proverbial black cow. Even on occasions when they had a right to be indulged a bit, they had to fill their stomachs with thorns to stay alive. Daughters usually went to their mother's house for their first delivery. Not that there was a great deal of difference between the house of their parents and that of their in-laws. Poverty and adversities were the same for Mahars everywhere. The one thing that was found in abundance was firewood. And so the girl, after her delivery, was given plenty of hot baths. And that used to be so painful. Actually, the ordeal would begin from the time the labor pains set in. In the first place, the girl generally would be very young, as all girls were married off at a very tender age. Obviously, they were physically quite underdeveloped at the time of their first pregnancy. The labor pains would continue for quite a long time, sometimes for even 3 or 4 days. The whole of the Maharwada, in fact, would gather around the house. Women in any case did not have much work to do at home, so they would simply flock to the house where a delivery was taking place. The ignorant midwives would keep thrusting their hands into the poor girl's vagina to see how far the baby had progressed. Invariably, the vagina would get swollen, obstructing the baby's path. The girl could overcome all obstacles and have a safe delivery only if her luck held strong. It was a battle with death. Her parents would be in a petrified state till she delivered the baby. They did whatever they could for her safety, that is, whatever did not cost any money. The poor girl would keep screaming aloud in pain, and their hearts would be rent apart. The girl's mother especially would be in a state of utter shock and bewilderment. People would suggest 100 different things to her. The elderly women would come up with their own advice: you should go to the stream and take a bath. Keep the wet sari on. Then go and pay a visit to our goddess Lakamai and pour water over her stone. Pray to her for an easy delivery. Don't forget to ask her to allow your daughter to return to her husband's place safe and sound along with the baby. Then the poor mother would hurry to the stream to bathe, and then pour water over all the saffron-coated stones of goddess Lakamai, worship them with haldi and kumkum, and pray for her daughter's safe delivery. Her teeth would chatter with cold and fear. When finally her daughter gave birth to the baby, the relief that she felt would be so intense that she would nearly faint. But the ordeal would not yet be over for the poor girl. Helpless, she would lie completely at the mercy of the women surrounding her. Her vagina would be swollen stiff, as the surrounding women kept thrusting their hands inside. There would be several wounds and cuts inside, which throbbed with unbearable pain. For want of cotton or cloth pads, blood continued to flow. Why, the girl would be fortunate if her family could find even some dirty rags for her. This was the extent of their poverty. Then the girl's mother would heat some water. In the meanwhile, her father would dig a pit in one corner of the hut for her bath. The soil dug out from the pit would be spread all over the hut. Once the pit was ready, they would spread sticks on top of the pit, put the spade and other tools used for digging inside the pit, and make the new mother sit upon the sticks. Then they would give her a bath with scalding hot water. They would massage her as well, but of course, without any oil. This went on till she started sweating profusely. Then they would spread dry paddy upon the floor. That would be her bed for the next 12 days. She was made to lie naked upon it, her sari spread over her as cover. After the hot water bath, she was given the hot coal treatment, that is, pieces of burning coal were kept around her to keep her warm. This made the poor girl sweat even more, as if she was having another hot bath. Only after all this torture was over, she was allowed to sleep. Then the newborn baby would be given bath with hot water. People lived in filth, yet no one told them about the use of soap. Women would spit on their palms and clean the baby's face with the saliva. Then they bathed the baby till it became completely exhausted. Both water and fuel were free of charge, anyway. So there might even be 2 baths a day. The crushed jowar would be cooked till it was soft, some jaggery, and a little oil would be added to it before it's given to the mother. It was believed that the baby would not suffer from stomach aches if the mother was fed such soft gruel. The hungry mother would quickly pour it down her throat, and feeling utterly exhausted, throw herself down on her straw mattress and close her eyes. Sleep would be instant and peaceful as her stomach was full. A neem twig would be hung at the doorstep as a sign that the house had a new baby. A visitor had to stop at the entrance for 5 minutes and spit 3 times before being allowed to enter. This was supposed to ward off any evil spirit that might have accompanied the visitor. Of course, it was only the more fortunate who could enjoy the luxury of eating cooked jowar, though this was the cheapest grain available. Many new mothers had to go hungry. They would lie down, pining for a few morsels while hunger gnawed their insides. Most women suffered this fate. Labor pains, mishandling by the midwife, wounds inflicted by onlookers' nails, ever-gnawing hunger, infected wounds with pus oozing out, hot water baths, hot coals, profuse sweating, everything caused the new mother's condition to worsen, and she would end up getting a burning fever. On most occasions it was tetanus. The family would have to look after the infant on the one hand, and the suffering mother on the other. There would be neither food nor money. Only unlimited grief and suffering. The fever was often called madanvayu. Heated discussions would follow. Many remedies, which did not cost any money, would be freely prescribed and followed. Some women would become possessed and the spirit of some goddess would speak out, "This girl is possessed by an evil spirit. The Hadal from that place, Shirtati, possesses her. She has come into the house lodged in the feet of a neighbor." The girl met the spirits exactly at 12 o'clock. "Now I'll tell you what the remedy is. Take some oil, jowar, beaten jowar, kajal, kumkum in a bowl, move the bowl over the girl's body, and then put it under the banyan tree at midnight. That evil bitch ties a swing to the banyan tree, and sits swinging there. To her heart's content. She is evil, I tell you, evil. She'll simply take away the body she possesses." The suffering of the woman would be beyond endurance. Even the onlookers found it difficult to watch her plight. Her family smeared her forehead with ash from the chulha. 2 or 3 days would pass like this. People around her would try to soothe her with kind words. Life in that poor mother gradually diminished and she would finally sink. Many young girls on the threshold of life succumbed to death. 1 in every 10 lost their lives during childbirth. Infants died as well. The fear of death drove people to the goddess Satwai, and they would perform all the customary rituals. On the 5th day, a ritual called the Pachvi would be performed. On this day, there would be a lot of work in the house. If no dead animal could be found in the village, an animal would be killed as sacrificial offering to the goddess. The new mother, it was believed, needed to eat 5 particular organs of an animal on this day. The elderly women in the house would wake up early and polish the floor and the chulha with cow dung. The new mother would be given a hot water bath. 4 dry jowar sticks would be placed in the 4 corners of the house. The women in the family went and stood in front of the queue if a dead animal was being skinned, and staked their claim on the 5 organs required as offerings to the goddess Satwai. The butchers would nod with understanding and give the women the required organs, the kidney, the stomach, the liver and an organ with several veins that looked like a slipper, and the large intestine full of fat. The women collected these in a big earthen pot, and immediately carried the pot home to cook the organs to a soft pulp. At sunset, the women would get busy. First, they would take 7 small stones, wash and arrange them on the bath pit in a line and smear them with haldi and kumkum. A big earthen pot would be kept on the bath pit, and a lamp of kneaded flour was lighted inside. Then the black soot from the flame was gathered and applied on the stones. The cooked limbs were offered as the sacrifice. Then the mother was covered with a blanket and the baby put at the feet of the goddess, that is, in front of the 7 stones. After this, the mother was given a large plate full of the cooked organs. After the meal, she was made to wipe her tongue with a tattered piece of jute cloth. It was believed that by doing so she would prevent the baby from getting stomach aches. Then the new mother and her mother had to keep vigil the whole night without even a wink of sleep. No cat was to be allowed inside. It was believed that the goddess Satwai and the god Barama visited the house at midnight to write the baby's future on its forehead. Barama, it was believed, had a pen with which he made Satwai write the fate of the baby. There is a saying that Barama's words and Satwai's writing are indelible and can never be wiped off. But didn't all the babies in the Mahar community share the same fate? So what was there to write on the forehead of each baby? Actually, both Barama and Satwai probably give the Mahar household a miss. Or they must have made one common stamp for all the Mahar children. In any case, what was so glorious in the life of a Mahar that they could choose to write about? So one common stamp was probably more than adequate for all Mahar babies. Today, if we come across Barama and Satwai, we would like to give them both a sound thrashing and ask, "Barama and Satwai, you ruined the lives of generation after generation of the Mahars. You wrote our fates, didn't you? Religion must have bribed you quite well to do this. Otherwise, why should you have done this? Religion must have handed over a stamp to Barama instead of a pen to Satwai. You kept sealing our fates with your writing. And yet, our simple folks were so loyal to you and your religion. But now we are more than a match for you, do you realize? Fine, you stamped a fate of misery on our foreheads 10 times, and we suffered 1,000 times more. But now we have vanquished you. We have true power because we have Shil, Satwa and Nidhi, and they stand supreme in the whole world. Thousands of our generations were sacrificed and their lives were utterly ruined. Millions perished but their essence of truth and morality did not. This endured, seeped into the soil, and enriched it. And then a small sapling grew out of this enriched soil. It went on to become a huge tree of light and truth. It gave shelter to millions who were suffering. The tree transformed beasts into human beings. This tree was that ideal human being, our very own Buddha. From 1930 onwards, his name started reaching villages like a gentle breeze that brings succor in the scorching sun. Our Bhim Raja decided to awaken his people, who had sunk to the level of subhumans. He began to organize small meetings and speaking to the people. But reaching out to millions of people was a stupendous task. Then the senior leaders in Mumbai decided to organize meetings at the time of Jatras because that was the time when all the people in the community would gather together. The leaders took up the job of enlightening ignorant people with Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar's thoughts, and their words found a way right into people's hearts. The first meeting was organized on the Purnima night in the month of Chatra in Jejuri. God Khandoba of Jejuri had been the family deity of the Mahars for generations. They flocked to this Jatra from various places, walking for several miles. In Jejuri, a huge crowd of Mahars yellowed with Haldi, one flocked at the Mahar Chatti for the meeting. Dr. Ambedkar was the topic of discussion among them all. Hey, have you heard? It seems there is a meeting of the Mahars in the Chatti, one would say. Another would respond immediately, yes, yes. You people from Virgan, this is exactly what our relative from Sasvad was saying too. You know, they say this boy Ambedkar belongs to our Mahar community, but he has been educated at a place far beyond the seven seas. Such great education he has had, you know. Imagine, he returned to Mumbai in a ship. And he can actually speak in the White Sahib's own tongue, and hold his own. This would be enough of an invitation for yet another to chip in. This man is nothing less than a miracle of God. That's why he's been able to cross the seven seas, you know. Anyway, let's sit down and listen to what he has to say. There were many, of course, who, after having eaten till their seams burst, just wanted to lie down at some place, and would have listened to anyone. But many wanted to listen specifically to Ambedkar. Thus a lot of people gathered at the Chatti, and in the moonlit night, camped on the large ground in front of the Chatti. My Aya from Mumbai had also come for this meeting. Even my grandaunt, Bikai Aji, had come. They too were among the audience. When Dr. Ambedkar arrived in his car, they could not believe their eyes. They had never expected their own man to arrive in a car, dressed in European clothes. Open-mouthed, they gaped at him in sheer amazement. It was difficult for Baba to reach the Chatti through the milling crowds that surged forward to see him. Somehow he made his way to the Chatti, and began his speech. My brothers and sisters, all you folks, including the old men, women and children who have come to Jejuri from far-off places. You walked barefoot for 8 to 10 days to get here. While on the way, you were tired, your feet ached, you had nothing but a few stale pieces of bakri to eat, yet you kept on walking and finally reached Jejuri. Why? Because you wanted to see your family deity Khandoba. But tell me, did Khandoba see you? What did he say to you? Could he see your condition? Did he see your suffering? Generation after generation, our people have paid homage to this god. They did not mind the discomfort. You too came after an arduous journey. But did your Khandoba see you? Could you meet him really? Why have you come after having suffered so? You have no clothes to wear. You have nothing to eat. You have no place to stay. And yet you come here. Year after year. You walk barefoot for the sake of this god. Your god should at least have inquired after you. Did he? Now, if he can't do anything for you, why do you take so much trouble for him? The stone steps in front of the god's temple have been worn away by hapless people beating their heads against those steps in utter supplication. But has he ever taken mercy on you? What good has this god ever done to you? Your people have served the villages, the upper caste communities, for ages. You clean all their filth. And what do they do for you? They feed you with their dead animals. Even then this god does not take pity on you. Do you know something? You don't worship God, you worship your ignorance. Generations after generations of Mahars have ruined themselves with such superstitions. And what have you got in return from this god? From now onwards you have to follow a different path. You must educate your children. Divorce your children from God. Teach them good things. Send them to schools. The result will be there for you to see. When your children begin to be educated, your condition will start improving. Your family, your life will improve. Your children will bring you out of this hell. We are humans. We too have the right to live as human beings. Your children will make you aware of this. Our women have had a major role in being superstitious, but I'm sure they will now give up these superstitions and take a lead in educating their children. They will have the honor of being the first to take this step forward. I have full faith in you, my sisters. Go ahead, educate your children. Let all our women take this step. Discard all such customs that strengthen our ignorance. My poor dear brothers and sisters, do not eat carcasses anymore. Don't clean the filth of the village. Let those who make the filth clean it up themselves. Let us teach them this lesson. This slavery, which has been imposed upon us, will not disappear easily. For that we need to bring about a revolution. Let 3/4 of our people die in this endeavor, then, at least the remaining 1/4 will be able to live their lives with dignity. At least, their future will be better. I appeal to you, my mothers and sisters, be the first ones to step forward for reform. Babasaheb's sturdy physique, his glowing youth, his fair complexion, his high forehead, and his European attire, his suit and boots, all of these impressed people to no end. They basked in the warmth and glory of his words, words that were like elixir to them. It was as if all their suffering had finally earned them a glorious reward. They left with his words echoing in the innermost core of their hearts, feeling deliriously happy. The mirage of their aspirations and dreams had taken a real form. His words and his defiant spirit had electrified the women. Bhai Aji was born in Mumbai. She was used to addressing meetings and did not experience stage fright. She climbed onto the stage and made a fiery, resounding speech, addressing the huge crowd, in the presence of Babasaheb. Let me assure you, my sisters, what Bhimrao Ambedkar says is absolutely right. We must educate our children. We must not and will not eat dead animals. We must reform our community. Let us resolve to fight along with Ambedkar. He speaks nothing but the truth. Let's follow him to the end. This is what I say. The meeting finally came to an end. Ambedkar had mesmerized everybody in the huge crowd. My grandparents started repeating Ambedkar's words to every person they met. They never got tired of repeating the things that he said. All the people who came to our house had to listen to them. My, that Ambedkar. What a dynamic young man he is. He has returned from far beyond the 7 seas after getting educated there. Just like a white sahib. And he is so learned. Like a sahib too. He is so tall, so big and so fair. And such a high forehead he has. He dresses like a sahib and also looks like one. When he got down from his car, we thought a governor was stepping out. What a speech he made. As if it was a meeting attended by Lord Indra in heaven. Ambedkar said, start educating all Mahar children. Stop eating dead animals. We must reform ourselves. Don't stay ignorant anymore. Don't believe in God and religion. He said so many things. How many, I cannot tell you. His words have rent my heart. My ayah spoke as if he was drunk with happiness. He would gather people in the chadi and repeat to them what Babasaheb had said in the meeting. Ayah said to the Karbari, we must now give up eating dead animals. Ambedkar knows what he's saying. He has been educated in the white man's land. Is he mad to say so without a reason? He says this because he knows something about it. It is time to discard this maharness. Look at our people in the cities, how they have progressed. Now put your children into schools first. Give up cleaning the filth of others. Don't eat dead animals. Look at that young man's concern for us. Now we should listen to him and do as he says. Listen, he is our own, of our flesh and blood. He has become a Bali-stirred barrister. Now tell me, does he not know more than us? The Karbari did not like this. He was quite upset. Finally he got exasperated with my ayah and gesticulating wildly, burst out, what are you saying, Malari? Stop teaching us this padri knowledge of yours. How dare you ask us to give up our custom of eating dead animals? You are asking us to revolt against the village. I've been listening to you for too long. Suppose we give up all this as you and your Ambedkar say, then how can we call ourselves true Mahars? Aren't we the children of this land? This duty of being the Yesker has been earned by our forefathers. They worked so hard for it. They suffered a lot but they never thought about giving it up. And you suddenly want us to give it all up. You get these silly ideas stuffed in your head, and then come and pour them down on us. Stop preaching us this Christian knowledge. Why do you want us to put our children in schools? Are they going to become teachers? Or are they going to become Brahmins? Send them to school, indeed. That's pure drivel. Listen, you can't make the river flow backwards. The village land is our mother. We have to carry forward whatever order she has given us. Why do we need foreign knowledge? The Yesker's stick is the mark of the happiness of the land. We have in us real Mahar flesh and blood. And you preach us this Christian knowledge. You and your sister-in-law, both of you are nothing short of troublemakers. That woman also keeps blabbering the same nonsense constantly. You survived on the morsels of the army where you served. But we are the real Mahars. We will last forever. God has drawn a line for us and you want us to cross it. Listen, we are born for this work. That's our sacred duty. Why should we give up our religion, our duty? We are the real original and pure Mahars. We aren't any of those half-baked converts. Listen, that Ambedkar has turned your head with his strange foreign knowledge. He has lived among foreigners. Then isn't he polluted? Probably he has become a Christian, that's why he preaches this padri knowledge. What else can he tell us, if not all this foreign Christian knowledge? Now you and your sister-in-law come and pour that down our heads. Listen, Malari, the Yesker's staff is not just an ordinary stick with a bell. It is no less than a royal staff. It is the mark of the real strength of the Mahar. The Mahar is a very proud breed. You say, don't offer women as Murali or Jogdan to God, you don't want to offer man as Patraja in the service of the God. Then what is it that you want? Tea and roti. Listen, a Murali woman is the first fruit obtained by a couple in their marriage. She has to be offered at the feet of our god Kandareya. We have been doing so for ages, that's why we have his blessings in our children are protected. And the Jogdan. She is also a woman offered to our goddess. And you don't want to do any of this. You are all set to burn and destroy a living tree. The string of beads and the sacred basket are the marks of the mother goddess. You take these things as ordinary. Do you know that if the goddess is displeased, she can ruin the entire house? She will burn our houses as punishment. The Patraja is supposed to be the servant of the goddess. Do you think that this is an ordinary thing? It's a great honor given to us. Stupid man comes and tells us to forget our gods and gives us Christian gods instead. No, no. For us what our ancestors did is the right thing. My ayah countered angrily, listen Tatya, if you want to worship those gods of yours, you are free to do so. But why ruin the lives of young people? Then another man came forward with yet another set of arguments, listen Malari, God Kadaraya is the deity of all Mahars. He blesses us with so many fruits, what's the harm in offering him one of ours? Why should we hesitate to do so? The custom of Murali is actually an honor given to our house. She is supposed to be the god's wife. A Murali is married to God. This god has a fiery temper. If we don't do so, he will lose his temper and punish us. He can wreak such havoc that we will be left, whimpering like dogs. You also ask us not to offer our girls to goddess Ambabai as Jogdan. But that too is wrong. Why, if we offer one fruit to her, she will bless us with many more in return. The goddess Ambabai specially favors the house that offers her a girl as Jogdan. That house becomes her favorite. Stop these idiotic arguments, Malari. There were innumerable such arguments and counterarguments. The chauti resounded with people ceaselessly debating these issues. The wind of Ambedkar's thoughts had started blowing incessantly, though its force was not very strong yet. Several activists in the movement, such as Ranpais, Madhale and Gaikwad, along with many others, organized meeting after meeting during jatras, addressing people and bringing about a change in their perception. It was as if Dr. Ambedkar was the god people had come to pray to, for bringing about a change in their lives. And people began to change slowly but steadily. They began to be aware. Parents now discarded the loincloth for their children, and began dressing them up in pajamas. Children also got used to the new attire. They began cutting the hair of their young daughters. The style was called English Bal. Parents began to enroll their children in schools. Gradually, the wind of Ambedkar's thoughts turned into a whirlwind. Everybody began to understand, argue and consider. The dead cells in their blood were charged with a new life. Blood began to flow through their veins with new vigor. People got charged with the spirit of revolution. There was one name on every tongue, Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar. This included the young and the old with no exception. Each hut reverberated with his name. Young men began to argue about the custom of eating dead animals. They were convinced that this custom had to be discarded. But old habits die hard, especially among older people. However, they could not hold their own in the arguments with the young men and found themselves completely outwitted. It was the youth everywhere who brought about this radical change. Yet, there were some families who would secretly obtain carcasses. The young men of the community started excommunicating those families. They were not allowed to come to any weddings. If they were found sitting for meals in a public function, they were served food in the broken pieces of a clay pot. After such public humiliation, people learnt their lesson and mended their ways. Once they gave up such habits, the community again accepted them back into its fold. Our village, Virgan, also witnessed such changes. Generally the jatra at Jejuri on the full moon night in Chatra would be preceded by the jatra in Virgan on the full moon night in the month of Math. The temple of god Meskoba was very famous all over. People from far-off places would come for this jatra. But it was the daughters of Virgan, girls who got married and had gone away, who were very particular about attending this jatra. They never failed to come for this jatra. Once my Mashi had come from Mumbai for this jatra. As luck would have it, some sick animal died the next morning. Now my Aji was on the alert as my Mashi loved to eat meat. The moment she heard that the animal would be slaughtered and distributed among the community, my Aji went and stood first in the queue. The animal was duly skinned, the putrid, decayed parts were thrown away, and the flesh was cut into pieces to be distributed among the people according to their share. My Aji's share did not contain any liver, thigh and other such coveted parts. So she started arguing with the Karbari who was distributing the parts. Look, my daughter has come all the way from Mumbai and she has asked me to get her the liver, thigh in such portions. So give those to me. The Karbari did not agree. He said, why are you so keen on having only those portions? Anyway, Yotsant have them. Take your share if you want. But my Aji was firm, she refused to listen and started arguing with the man loudly. Everybody from the Maharwada were there. They were waiting for their turn, with their children crawling around the heaps of meat ready to be distributed. None of them was willing to exchange their share with her. This incensed my Aji so much that she shouted, anybody who eats a dead animal today will eat a pig. Like the Muslims, the Mahars were prohibited from eating pig meat. They could not even utter the word pig. No sooner did my Aji utter the word pig, than people started spitting in disgust and horror. They threw away their share of the meat back on the skin spread on the ground. Some women got up to beat my Aji. Others started cursing her loudly for having deprived them of their meat. But all the young men who had gathered around were very happy. They congratulated my Aji. Well done, Sidi Vahini, they said. You did a good thing. Today you have given the Maharwada fresh insight. This is exactly what Dr. Ambedkar has been saying, and if we listen to Sidi Vahini, that's what she is saying too. So let us make a resolution that from now on, we will not eat dead animals. Thus did our Maharwada join the Ambedkar movement. Everybody took an oath never to eat dead animals and the atmosphere resounded with the slogan, Bhimrao Ki Jai. From that day onwards the Mahars of Virgan stopped eating dead animals. Even today when people come together, the memories of this incident conies alive. Everybody admits that Sidi Vahini was the first to stop the eating of dead animals in Virgan. A lot of turmeric is customarily used to worship this particular god, and it is literally showered on the worshippers. As a result, everybody gets colored in turmeric. 7.